All right, I'll give it another minute or two for people to wander in. But in the meantime, first of all, if you're in the room, you should sign into Meetico so that A, you can get in the queue if you want to speak, and B, we know you're here, so we can get, so don't get an even smaller room next time. And second, would anybody like to volunteer to be our note taker? Sudden silence. Well, I'll ask again when we get to that slide, and then I'll stall. All right. Give it. Yeah, we've shut the door, so probably we can get started. So, hello, everybody. This is the AVTCORE working group. Welcome. All right. Clickers. Reminder that by being here in an IETF meeting, IETF policies apply. Patents and intellectual property. You can be photographed and filmed. You've provided personal information, and you agree to work respectfully with other participants. So, reminder that if you're starting a presentation, you must say if there's IPR related to your draft. If you're commenting on it, you must disclose any IPR your employer controls, and there's documents describing potential sanctions if that's not followed. Also, please, remember to treat everybody here with courtesy and respect and professionalism. And if you feel you're not being so treated, or you see somebody not being so treated, you can talk to the Ombuds team, who are there to help resolve any such issues. So we are, as usual, using Meetico here. If you're in the room, please make sure to sign into the session either via the data tracker agenda or via the QR code, which should be on the mic and possibly other places. Use the client to join the mic queue, and if we have any shows of hands, polls. If you're using the full version, please keep audio and video off. Especially audio playback off. There's a mute button, so you don't get echo in the room. If you're remote, please keep your audio and video off until you're speaking to the session, either presenting or talking to the question. Use of a headset is strongly recommended so we don't get echo. The browsers do have cancellation, but it's not perfect. And the other thing I think this doesn't say is that, maybe it's on the next slide. No, it's not. The other thing it does say is that if you're remote, you may use video. It can help, but you must turn on audio separately. Audio and video are separate toggles in Meetico. So this meeting, this is Marius Title. It's the first time we've actually met in person, so that's very exciting. Everybody welcome Marius. And we will need a note taker. So would anybody like to volunteer to take notes? Or should I stare at you balefully? Let's see. Who can I pick on? Nils, can I pick on you to take notes? Okay, Nils will take notes. Thank you, Nils. And if anybody else wants to, if you're doing it in the Etherpad or whatever they call it these days, Mo will also join him there to back him up. Great, thank you. Wonderful. So here's our agenda. We're currently doing the preliminaries. By the way, if you want to take over talking at any point, let me know. Okay. We will do, Spencer will do STP offer answer for RTP over quick. We have an RTP payload for avatars, RTP frame acknowledgements, a payload for APV, messages for temporal facial resolution, and possibly S-frame, though it's not clear. We didn't get any slides for it, and I don't see our intended presenter here, so we may not do that, and we may instead do that at our next interim. So draft status, J2K SCL is in the RFC editor's queue. We've got a number of things that have completed working group last call. Haptics, I think you still need some coordination with Media Man, unless Harold says that that's been sufficient, we can go ahead. V3C, we're doing the Shepherd write-up. And green metadata, we have really not, we feel like we've not got enough responses for consensus, but we can talk about that because that is on the agenda. RTP over quick is in working with less call. I think we haven't gotten a lot of responses on that yet, so please respond to the list with your comments about RTP over quick. Okay, we've got a number of drafts that have been adopted. HEVC WebRTC, Philip Hankey has taken over from Bernard as editor of that, and volumetric media region of interest and apps capture time are both adopted, but I'm not sure I've had any activity. S-frame should hopefully be resuscitating. There's interest again, but as I mentioned, they did not get slides in for this time, so hopefully we'll have some discussion on that at our next interim. And we've got two things that we decided to call for adoption at our last interim, but I think we wanted to wait till after maybe after the RTP over quick to do that, or maybe we just didn't get around to it, I forget. All right, the other thing we wanted to mention, this is something I think that Spencer raised with us. We've been doing a single combined slide deck in the past, which is different from the way basically every other IETF group does this. So we're thinking of switching to being more like everybody else, unless anybody really likes our combined slide deck and would like us to keep it that way. This lets people use whatever tools they feel like to prepare their slides, their own, style sheets. They don't have to use Google Sheets. We don't have to, wait till everybody's done before we can upload things and so on and so forth. So though, really, I think the way everybody else in the IETF does it is more normal. So we're going to switch to that unless somebody really likes our combined slide decks. All right, so Spencer. Spencer, do you want to drive your own slides, or do you want me to drive slides?
Let me drive them. I think that may be a good plan.
Okay. So do you actually want to? Do you want the? Let me see here. How does this work? Where are you? Here you are. Flash slides control. There you are. So the slides will still be.
Okay. Yeah. I'm good.
Right.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. So I'm Spencer Dawkins. Greetings from the Dallas, Texas area, and here to talk about provide an update on SDP offer answer for RTP over quick. So this draft is in the AVTCORE GitHub repository and included in the weekly GitHub activity summaries. At this meeting, I've got 4 PRs since the last AVTCORE virtual interim that I believe 3 of them are ready to merge. I would like to get opinions on the 4th one. There's still more work to do beyond that, but this is what I'm really hoping to walk away from this meeting with is feedback on these PRs to merge them, and I'll talk more about why that's my goal later. 2 of them were easy. We talked at the last interim about removing the quick datagrams advisory indication. We said that that was a good thing to do, so I have a PR that just removed that. We said that we needed to figure out how we were going to handle RFC 5761 style RTP, RTCP multiplexing, and the answers seem to be from the virtual interim, we should require that. So we don't have to figure out, well, what do you do if you sometimes have multiplexed RTCP and sometimes you don't? So again, just sticking in a PR that implements that. The PR 28, I also had a issue from Martin Seaman about redundant statement about connection migration. And PR 28 removed the text that Martin was pointing to the issue with. Should I be waiting for comments on each slide? I think
Nobody seems to be wanting to, and in fact, you're in the queue yourself, which is probably unnecessary.
Interesting, because my join queue is not turned on.
Oh no, I'm wrong. It just shows you there because you're presenting. I'm confused.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's not the way it worked last time. Interesting. Cool. So anyway, these two I believe are easy. Somewhat more complicated. We had some discussion about clarifying the relationship between bundle and rock flow IDs. The short answer after some discussion is that there isn't one, or there needs to not be one. Rock is providing multiplexing on a single quick connection, and bundle is providing multiplexing on a single transport connection, which would include a single quick connection. I think that this is ready to merge, unless anyone wants to jump up, run to the mic, and say, yes, I need bundle on a rock connection. I saw somebody start to move. Okay.
Harold.
Excellent. Hi, Harold.
Greetings. Unfortunately, well, I agree that we don't need bundle on a rock connection, but that's not all the way out of the woods yet, because RTP has this silly notion called RTP session.
Okay.
And the reason it matters is that some RTCP messages refer to multiple SSRCs.
Right.
And it's confusing to me which SSRCs any such message can refer to. I mean, the same rock flow, or all rock flows on the connection, or some other answer. And if it's confusing to me, it's likely confusing to others.
Right. So I'm going to give you my answer. I see that Mattis is also in Medeco. So if I get this wrong, Mattis, please correct me. Since we are co-authors on the rock spec. But basically, the point of this PR was to be able to find the RTCP someplace, but that we can, you're getting multiple flow IDs potentially on the quick connection, and if you're doing what's it called? But basically combining the RTCP reporting, that those can come out on any of the flow IDs. That's in the rock spec. Mattis, am I getting that too wrong?
I don't think the rock spec says that. It might intend to, but I don't think it says so.
So if the rock spec doesn't say so, then maybe that should be an issue we talk about in RTP Rock Quick, and that should be an issue on the RTP Rock Quick repository.
Yeah, I'm working with what the rock spec says now, but I think that where that's addressed is in the rock spec.
Yeah, if that's not clear in the rock spec, that would be an excellent last call comment, and you should submit it.
Look, there goes one now.
So just to flag my personal interests, I'm interested in seeing whether I can incorporate this into WebRTC with a minimum amount of code restructuring. And restructuring the RTP session concept is going to be significantly harder than not restructuring it.
Cool. So it sounds to me like hi, Niels.
Hi, Niels Omer, Cloudflare. From my perspective, the main point of bundle isn't so much about RTP and RTCP, but more so that bundle basically says in an SDP, take the transport of whatever I tell you, most cases, the first transport, and ignore all the other transports, which I assume if we do quick, we actually want to basically bundle by default, or do we
that's
to people basically to open new quick connections for every single media section.
No, you're exactly right. That basically the issue that we came up with when I was looking at bundle before was I was not clearly saying that that ROC was providing the equivalent multiplexing capability over a single transport connection. So this is why it's not necessary to use bundle with ROC, is because there's you get it just by putting different media flows on a single quick connection with different flow IDs.
Okay,
so
got it.
Okay, perfect. Now we did say, and I believe the PR says this, that if you're translating middle box with ROC on one side and bundled RTP on and RTP on the other, not ROC, if you want to bundle the not ROC RTP, you have to handle bundling on that side correctly. But you're not going to be just copying bundle from one side to the other. Does that make sense? So basically we are terminating RTP on such a translating middle box.
Okay, Jonathan as an individual, but not standing up because I don't want to. So yeah, I mean, I think to Harold's point, right now WebRTC does assume that all of the RTP is in a single RTP session. I think that's sort of architecturally, and because it's all bundled into one bundle group, which does mean that, for instance, to Harold's point, yeah, you can send a CCFB RFC 8888 feedback, for all your sources in a single RTCP packet. Whereas if in the ROC model, at least the ROC and SDP ROC model as we currently have it, each of those would be each of those sources would be in a separate RTP session, which means each of their feedbacks would have to be an RTCP packet sent separately on each of the corresponding ROC connection IDs. So if we don't want to have to significantly restructure WebRTC, that does mean you would need bundle with ROC, which might be more annoying. So I don't know exactly what to do, but I do want to understand what the issues are.
I apologize for continuing to put Metis on the hot seat for this, but that basically, number one, yes, I understand not wanting to refactor all of WebRTC so that we can do ROC, absolutely. But number two, the way the ROC spec is written as of this moment, it's basically saying don't be surprised on any of the flow IDs that you get RTCP if you're doing the aggregate reporting.
So Magnus Westlund.
Hi, Magnus.
Hi. I think you need to fix this in SDP and not do what you're thinking you're going to do, because I mean, the rock spec I think says that one rock flow or an RTP session in rock uses 1 or 2 rock flows. Bundled things in WebRTC, etc., is 1 RTP session. So they need to go on 1 or 2 flows, depending if you separate RTCP or not. So you're going to have to live with that and then figure out, okay, how do we express that with multiple media lines if you're going to have that? Because otherwise, I think you're causing this really big confusion about how you're dealing with RTCP, what's included, etc. when you're splitting and recombining the RTP sessions across a translating box. It would be, I think it would be a mistake to cause the translating box to try to figure this out.
Thank you. Okay. So I have some work to do on this one, and Magnus, yeah, you're still in queue, but probably just because you haven't.
I can take them out. Sorry.
Okay, cool. So that I have one new PR that people have not seen previously. It's from last week. Harold was also asking about how to use ICE with Rock, and the PR aims at his question and handles the easy part of his question. He was asking, does ICE happen inside Rock or outside? I was proposing that it happens outside of Rock, and that we use RC 9443 to multiplex quick, stone, and turn. I'm going to stop there, and I don't hear any screams, and I don't see anyone in queue. Okay, but wait, there's more. That was not all of Harold's question. He said this. We don't have a mechanism defined to specify Rock as an ICE candidate the same way a TCP or UDP candidate can be specified. So this has implications for the proto field. If you want to make it impossible to pick and choose between UDP, TCP, and Rock connections, probably mention this as out of scope. ICE with Rock is for further study. At the last interim, I asked the question, do we want to make Rock a first-class RTP transport? Jonathan said no. Harold said yes. So there seems to be some debate. I'd like the working group to be thinking about how the best way for me and the working group to move forward on that question. I think we're talking about that for SDP for Rock, we would simply use, for instance, RTP/AVP, and just then once you've got ICE candidates that are verified, you can just try to open a quick connection on them. I mean, that's a thing that you could do. We're using quick specific transport. We're using quick / transport specific protos now. So please consider this as a request for time at the next interim to work on this. And number one, how? Let me ask, how am I doing on time?
I think we have a little more time than we thought, so you can probably take another 5 minutes. So
okay, I know you have working group drafts that are in line behind me.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be respectful for that. Please continue.
Yeah. So I was on the. Can you go back to the previous slide?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the question there's sort of the question is several questions. Do we want to make it possible to like figure out, not just say I definitely want to use Rock or I definitely want to use RTP over classic ICE, but should you actually be able to make an offer that says, I'm willing to do either, let me know what you want? And would that then be negotiated at SDP offer answer time? Or is that something you would discover, I don't know, would you send both a DTLS client hello and a quick initial on the same flow and see which one you get a response to? That sounds terribly exciting. So
I agree with what I don't mean to interrupt.
yeah, sure.
I want to agree with what you just said. I'm kind of the mental model I have right now is that we threw out datagram because it didn't matter what SDP thought was going to happen. What mattered was whether quick endpoints negotiated support for datagram. So
Right.
that's kind of the mental model I have right now. That doesn't have to be the right one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine, but the question is, should you be figuring out at runtime the choice between whether you're using quick or whether you're using RTP over UDP plus, say, DTLS or something? Having that be discovered at runtime seems very exciting. Not impossible, but exciting.
Right.
So we should figure that out in general, and then I think that's sort of related to this question.
So yes, I agree, and to me this is a little bit about how an application gets RTP gets ROC transport, and how much control it's got over whether it's using ROC or not.
Mm-hmm.
Not particularly at the SDP level. It's like what does the application do?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a higher level question, and it's actually relevant for my last slide with text on it. Mo?
Mo Zanatti, I was confused about whether the problem is related to the RTP profile in SDP, the RTP AVP profile, or the transport quick, or because there's many more profiles, right? Did we already have the discussion about we're not actually mapping the right RTP profile because could be AVPF, could be SAVPF.
Right. So a long time ago, probably 2 years ago at this point, we had some discussions about having profiles that included the fallbacks. So if I said I wanted to use quick, but I might have to fail over to use UDP, or I might have to fail over to use TCP because the reason I can't use quick is because I can't use UDP either. And we had some proposals for some long proto identifiers, and where we ended up today is with 4, if I remember correctly, of the classic AVP, AVPF, SAVP, SAVPF protos but specifying quick as the transport.
When you say protos, in the profiles, right? Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
When you say protos, you're talking about RTP profiles, right? In SDP.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So then Jonathan's question is moot because you can't opportunistically try a different profile under one profile, right?
In theory, you can't, but people do.
So do we need to write that down someplace? And perhaps not in this draft.
I mean, the opportunistic SRTP is well known, but even though it's not actually defined, so
I think I'm agreeing with Niels Omer. I think I'm agreeing with what Mo was trying to say. Like, if there's a profile, then you basically you need to have like new M sections for the alternatives of quick versus ICE, right? The alternative path in my mind could be, I'm not saying that's a great alternative, to basically say like ICE gets like a new candidate, which happens to be quick, and the preference on that layer basically you express via like the ICE preference, the priorities in there, and then you let ICE basically do the magic of figuring out whether a transport over TCP, over UDP, or over QUIC is the best one or the fastest one or whatever. But
Yeah.
that one wouldn't basically give the application any or not much control besides the priority values. But this one, basically, you would have to specify multiple M sections to have alternatives, or
Right.
I don't know.
John, please don't reinvent Captain Egg. You're dangerously close.
Magnus Westland.
Thank you for saying that. Please, and hi.
So, I mean, what ICE does provides you when you're trying to negotiate UDP-based candidates is datagram. And I mean, TCP candidates is just saying, I have framing over TCP that gives you a UDP equivalent or datagram transport. And that's what QUIC needs. So it's on this level, it's like you're going to run QUIC on top of this datagram transport level, which is like, and that was what ICE will provide you. So I think it's not, shouldn't be a candidate. It's what you need. A new candidate type is when you start talking about like the UDP listen, which is a turn equivalent, which then becomes relative to ICE in that sense. But for the basic ROC perspective, I understand it gets confusing because of how the transport is. But I guess we can do a lie here or saying we know that this line should be UDP over QUIC over RTP over AVP, AVTF, etc., whatever. But yeah, we just need to indicate that the actual encapsulation of RTP is QUIC, but it's going to be over UDP by default. And
yeah,
ICE STUM process doesn't need to care about that. I think if we know that at the end, I'm going to send a QUIC packet and get it through, or is that the actual problem?
So, is Bill still in queue, or is that old?
So, hello, that's John again.
Hi, Harold.
The critical thing about ICE candidates is that we're actually doing 95% of peer-to-peer QUIC. And unfortunately, ICE returns a candidate pair in the form of IP addresses as seen from the endpoint, which are not the same IP addresses as seen at the other endpoints because of that.
Right.
And the result is that you don't have a server name. Now, QUIC cannot connect without a server name. So in order to make this work, we have to do also fingerprint for QUIC, which fortunately is a requirement of WebChance, so they will have solved that one, I hope. So we're effectively doing defining peer-to-peer QUIC. And I think we actually have most of it in those 3 paragraphs you have suggested. But there are a few details left. Now, the issue with the big issue with profiles and having QUIC as a profile and TCP as a profile and UDP as a profile is, of course, the S in SAVP, which is QUIC protects you. The other ones don't.
Yeah. Yes, right.
And how are you going to say that? You might put in a paragraph saying that, oh, if you specify the SAVP profile and end up on a QUIC connection, you can just drop the S. Or not. I'm not sure.
So, and actually, Harold and I have had this conversation with what's in the draft now, moving the implications of using AVP and AVPF with ROC, and what happens when you get to a translating middle box. Let's keep an eye on what the what the draft actually says currently. Does Jonathan?
Yeah. So I think so. One issue, which I think Harold's mentioned to me before, is that in practice there's the problem that at least the WebRTC library completely ignores the proto field because it's a complete soup in the wild, and so I'm not sure how much you can usefully depend on it being helpful to you. So possibly sort of related to that, sort of the question, maybe sort of as a step back, is do we want to make it possible to send an HTTP offer that says I could either do RTP over quick or RTP over UDP, and we'll figure it out either in STP offer answer or in something after that, or do you just want to be able to say, yeah, basically, I mean, not as separate M sections, just as a single M section that says I could do either, or do we want to say, this M section would use RTP over quick. If you don't know what that is, respond with port 0, like you would normally be supposed to do. So that's sort of an interesting question of how we want to handle that. Which, how you when you're talking to people who potentially don't know what RTP over quick is, and especially when they might be ignoring your proto field. So,
Harold is in the room, so if I'm misquoting him badly, Harold can correct me, but that basically the goal is to change as little as possible within WebRTC for it to use ROC. But if we have to change something, what the best way to change things are. I think that's my read of where we are, which brings me to Mo.
Mo Zanatti. So I want to make sure I understand Jonathan's and Neil's points and whether or not they're totally different. If you had multiple SDBM sections, one for all your traditional stuff, and then another one for ROC, and Jonathan was saying on the same transport, right, on the same port. So if you bundled them and you put a port 0 on one of them, what's the problem? Unless you expressly put whatever you want.
Yeah, but the problem is there's not really a way to say please choose one or the other in SDP.
So yeah, bundle's going to give you both.
Yeah,
right?
that means I want to do both, which is probably not what you want.
But you are offering both, right?
You're offering both in the hopes that the answerer picks one.
Yes.
And perhaps even picks the best one.
Ideally.
I think this comes down to a typical scenario of like, do you use SDP in a scenario where you know what the other site is capable or not? Right? Most of the use cases I have in mind for this would be that I know that the other side actually can talk ROC. So I wouldn't care actually about a fallback, right? So the whole scenario of like actually implementing a potential fallback is for like these more open scenarios where you don't know who is going to send you an SDP answer. And then you get into all this, but I think like I think Harold's argument of like hey, let's try ROC, and if we do ROC, then don't protect this stuff because the transport layer protects it. But hey, if you don't understand ROC, let's fall back to just regular ISIN over UDP. But then you need to apply protection. Sounds pretty scary to me and open to like lots of things going wrong.
Yeah. If we're assuming a WebRTC context, I think we can assume, you know what your peer can do because the person orchestrating it
exactly right. This is more like this that whole scenario of like, oh, can you do ROC or can you only handle basic ICE over UDP with SRTP?
If you're in more of a SIP world, you have no idea what your peer can do. But
exactly.
Yes, exactly.
But I think the safer path for that approach would be to actually have separate M section, and then what you said, expect the other side to basically say like, and plus like if you use an extra profile, even if the client ignores profiles, as you said, then I guess the transport, like the ICE for that M section would look weird to that client and basically like, what the heck is that? I don't know how to handle that. So hopefully it would respond with port 0, and then use the ones it actually understands and is able to handle.
Mm-hmm. We have thinking to go. Hi, Mo.
Mo again. Then one final question to Harold's point about we're 95% of the way to peer-to-peer quick, but something is missing. I'm a little confused. What's missing? I thought the TCP would still have the same issues as quick, right?
I think
So we got
Fingerprint's
working for
already in
TCP.
this.
Why we're not getting it working
Yeah,
for quick?
Fingerprint is already in this draft, isn't it? You have DTLS, the same fingerprints as DTLS SRTP? Because it should be exactly the same as DTLS SRTP. Yeah, fingerprint applied to click. It's the same. It's TLS.
Yeah.
DTLS, same thing.
That's what I was remembering. Thank you for noticing.
So there's nothing missing for peer-to-peer now. Okay.
No. All right, so let's move on because we are running behind a little bit.
I tried.
Yeah, no, my fault. Yeah.
No, I mean, thank you. So I think I can reasonably merge 3 of the 4 PRs that I've got, and we can talk about the 4th one that we've just been talking about. Whatever I can do soon, I would like to submit a 0-1, and I plan on asking the working group chairs to consider an adoption call for that, for 2 reasons. One is we've actually got other committed reviewers now for adoption call, and most of the work that we still have to do, I believe, will benefit from more eyes. This is, what we're talking about here is an excellent example. I would like to see if we can converge on a first-class transport direction by IETF 124, which actually means that we'd have meaningful discussions at the next interim, I hope. And I wanted to offer anyone who is willing to join a design team on this, so that it's not Spencer just trying to come up with ideas. That I think we're getting to the point where having one individual draft with 2 authors, we may have outgrown that. Yeah. So if anybody would like to stand up now and say, I really care about this and would like to participate in offline discussions between now and the interim, I would invite people to do that. Otherwise, please go ahead and just send email to the list. That would be helpful for everybody to know that. And that puts me to thank you as always. And I plan to see people in real life, actually. So.
Yeah. And I saw you were asking for adoption for this, and I feel like you've been treating it as a working group draft for a while. I mean, you're clearly seeking consensus on merging your PRs and things like that. So I would say we can do a call for adoption, but we've been kind of treating it like a working group document anyway. So.
Well, let me do 0-1 because I could do that by the end of the week.
Okay, great.
And thank you for your support and encouragement, and thank you everybody for the comments.
All right, so let me put the slides back. Where do I do that? Here, down here. Okay, and so I think next up is Avatar. There we are. Do you want to use the clicker, or do you want me to try do your slides?
Yes, I'll try.
You want to use this? Yeah. All right, that should now be enabled. So, no, there you go.
Hello everyone. Today I'm going to present about RTP payload format for avatars. So this is a background of the MPEG specification for avatars. So currently MPEG define the format for efficiently transmitting or representing avatar-related informations, such as appearance, motions, and facial expressions. And it enables consistent avatar experience across the device and networks. And it can be applied to use case like avatar-based video conference system in metaverse services. So in this spec, it defined avatar animation unit, which is called AAU, and you can see the detailed structure on the right side. And there are 4 main type of animations sample, including blend, shape, joint, landmark, and the texture-based animations. So currently, MPEG is standardizing this draft, and it is at the DIA stage, and it will be finalized around first quarter of the 2026. And as a point of a 3GPP perspective, the 3GPP architecture is evolving to support XR services over 5G or 6G networks, and avatars are emerging as a new media type in this context. So I believe that this is the right time to define RTP format for avatars. So this is the proposal overview. So in this chapter, we define RTP header. So we define 4 types, 4 fields. The first one is sync type, and the sync type indicate whether the packet is the dependent or not. And the unit type indicate the type of the payload. And layer L include layer or level of detail informations. And AVID, which is avatar ID, identified avatars to be targeted to animate. And we also defined media type registration, and we have 5 optional parameters. But there's nothing too special. So we just use version profile avatar ID, and we have 2 more parameters. Yeah, this is a really first draft. So suggestion and the feedback are always welcome. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me by email if you have any questions.
Are you asking for adoption at this time, or are you?
I think this is the first time we need more time to get a review.
Okay.
And then we can request adoptions.
Magnus Westland, so how big is the thing that you're sending over RTP, and what kind of properties does it have? Is it needs to be fully reliable, or what's its transport properties?
It really depends on the application, I think. So actually, they assume that the avatar template, each side already have the avatar template. They just send some information that have some movement information. So, but when you think about the video conferencing with avatars, in that case, I think the RTP should be used for that.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I was trying to understand what transport properties has and what challenges there are here. Because I mean, I know when we did media, which doesn't tolerate any loss, you basically have to restart, etc., because you get stuck nodes. Is this animation? You say, okay, is this absolute coordinates like, okay, move it here, etc., which is fine, or is it just now move slightly there and then slightly more in the next packet, or times? It's like, how does this interact with the RTP model, etc., and what's going to happen when we send these things over RTP? That's I'm trying to understand this, how suitable it really is.
As a point of, I mean, the animated, I couldn't say exactly how they much need that, but as I know, there are so many joint and facial expressions. So because of that, they need this real-time protocol. So, but I don't know exactly how much data they really need for that, but this is one of the point of this RTP payload.
Mosinati, I'm familiar with. I'm sorry, I haven't read the draft, so I'm not sure exactly what the objects that are being transported are. But I'm familiar with standards for static mesh and static polygonal meshes and dynamic polygonal meshes. And I believe you're not doing either. I believe you are assuming that the meshes are already communicated out of band, or they're pre-configured models, and you're only expressing the morphs. You're only expressing manipulation of vertices. Is that right? Do you already have the models on both sides, or could I paint a room instead of a face, or no?
Yeah, actually here, yeah, they have the reference for the avatar. So each client already have the template. So yeah, it almost same as that you mentioned, like the mesh things. Yeah.
So both sides already have a mesh set, and then you're just expressing the morphs to each.
Yeah, just facial expressions and the contour of the face expressions and some joint. They define a lot of joint section in your body. It's not only for the face, so all of the body. So they have a joint movement information, and the texture-based animation used the image texture to represent the avatar too. So,
and are you streaming the textures through this payload format also? Or are you just pointing to textures in some other payload format?
Yeah, just the data. Yeah.
Okay. What I was going to mention is that we did a draft a long time ago. I think it's probably dead and expired by now, but for sending updates, if both sides already have a mesh, we submitted a draft a long time ago. We called it game state, draft Jennings, AVTX or payload or whatever, game state. And that allowed two models, it doesn't have to be faces, anything, any arbitrary models on both sides to be morphed by this game state RTP messages on both sides. I don't know if you find that useful or not. It doesn't support things like you mentioned, like contours or textures, but for vertex manipulation, we proposed a standard for that a long time ago.
Okay,
take a look.
I'll check the draft too. Thank you.
So one other question. You said you assume each endpoint has the full graphics files. Is the mechanism by which you do that something you'd also bring to the IETF, or is that just going to be applications doing it on their own? At some point, at some level, you need to make sure each endpoint gets all the graphics files. Would you also be bringing a payload, some sort of payload or other mechanism for that to the IETF, or you don't know yet, or?
We don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So yeah. So they are the MPEG is in the middle of the standardization. So maybe this is the first time to.
Okay. Yeah. Need to see what they do. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Sure. All right. Thank you. And next up we have Eric. Eric, you're remote. There you are. Do you want to drive your own slides, or do you want me to drive your slides?
I have only like 4 slides, so perhaps it's easier if you do it for me.
Okay.
Right. All right. So just a quick recap of what this is. So this is a proposal that I first presented back in March. And the intended use case is essentially for long-term references. So that is when on the send side, the encoder decides to stash the state of a given frame so it can be used at a later point as sort of a recovery point. When you have like a bigger loss event or something like that. But for that to work, you need to know that the remote side has actually received and decoded this frame, so it has the same state in that reference buffer. And so for that, we have an RTP header extension to sort of say, I want feedback for this frame that I intend to use as a recovery point. And then the remote end will then respond with an RTCP message saying that it has or it has not decoded that frame. So next slide, please. Yeah, so on the GitHub repo I set up for this, we have currently a dozen open issues where we're discussing different things. And there are 2 pull requests in review. So most of the changes so far to this thing since the last time is kind of cosmetic. But the 2 PRs we're discussing now are more architectural in nature. So next slide, please. So the biggest problem we have identified with the previous proposal is that there we said that the method to identify a frame comes from somewhere else. So you'd have a prioritized list of different methods to identify a frame. That could be a dependency descriptor, or we could add sort of a dedicated frame ID extension if we wanted that, or we could use something like timestamps. But that leads to a lot of complexities and fragility, right? So you need to make sure that both ends of this agrees what that prioritized list actually looks like. Otherwise, they're going to be out of sync. And it becomes even more tricky when you have a multi-way conference and you might not have the same set of extensions and protocols on the uplink as you do on various downlinks. In addition to that, when you request feedback, you can request feedback for a range. So you haven't received any feedback for the last recovery frame that you sent out. So I say, I want feedback from this previous frame to this current one that I'm sending you now. And if you're using, say, dependency descriptors, that might be 100 frames, of which only 2 are long-term reference. So you're sending a bunch of data that you're not interested in at all. And there are some other minor ugliness as well. So for those reasons, we want to incorporate the frame ID in the same extension as the one we're using to request feedback. So then it's very unambiguous which frames you're actually talking about. And since these frame IDs essentially correspond to individual reference buffers, you will have max, say, like 16 at the flight in time. If it's AV1, you can't have more than 8 in flight. So you can actually get away with a smaller field for these frame identifiers. So we could shrink those from 16 bits to 8 bits now that we know exactly what we're talking about. We've also added, looking at a length field, so you can be more sort of versatile in how you request feedback. Since part of this is having guaranteed delivery, if you so wish, you can re-request feedback for something. Also, based on feedback from the previous meeting in March, we're making the definition of a frame a bit more strict. So a frame might not actually be a single frame. It could be something smaller. So we're now saying that it's any independently decodable piece of bitstream data that can also be independently packetized that updates state in the decoder that can be used as reference for later pieces of these things. So this could be, instead of a frame, it could be a tile, or it could even be something that just updates the entropy tables or anything on these. You can still, of course, just use frames if you want to, but this makes it a bit more clear and versatile in how we use it. So next slide, please. And there are some of the other discussions ongoing is, do we want just this has been received and decoded, or it has not? Or do we want to have more granular data? Like we have received some packets for this frame, but not all. Or we have received the packets, but we haven't been able to decode it yet. Or it's decoded, or we have some error. This is unclear if we have use cases for this, but that's something we might add. We're also looking at if we can have some lenience. And the current spec says that when you receive this feedback request, you immediately send feedback. And in some cases, that might be sending feedback quite often. So we're adding this thing. That's a proposal to say that we can have some delay. You can wait up to X milliseconds before you send feedback. Unless you actually see a loss event, then you should send feedback immediately. Yes,
Mo?
next slide, please. Oh, okay, good.
Mosinati, apologize if I already asked and I forgot your answer, but why can't you use timestamp for this? Why do you need a separate frame ID space?
Well, with timestamps, one of the weird things there is, well, just a timestamp isn't enough. You would need timestamp plus spatial ID. And there's no clear way to define spatial ID as far as I know, unless you also have frame marking or something else in there.
So this frame ID would be actually per layer? Each layer would have its own frame IDs?
Yep. That's right. So when you're using S modes, where you essentially have 3 independent simulcast streams within a single SSRC, you need to actually know both the timestamp, the temporal unit, and the spatial area that it's on.
Okay. Would that be enough for you to have the timestamp and the spatial layer ID, or you still need something more?
If we're only dealing with full frames, yes. But if you want to deal with tiles or something smaller, then it becomes more tricky.
Okay.
Yeah. It's also, this one is pretty neat since you only increment the ID by 1 for each frame you're actually interested in. You have a sort of consecutive sequence of these things. While with timestamps, you might have large gaps. Like this previous frame was 16,000 ago.
But I mean, frame numbers are also not necessarily contiguous, right? If there's reordering or complex GOPs, you may not,
I mean, okay, so if right, so there might be gaps if like the SFU is filtering things out, but otherwise, like in the temporal order, it's quite clear what it is. It sort of minimizes the space as much as possible.
Yeah, but like in the default modes of most codecs, like, you know, the picture order count almost always increases by 2, not 1. So there's almost always gaps in default streams.
Yeah, I mean, so the gap thing, that's more an aesthetic thing. I don't think that's a major issue. The bigger issue was the ones I mentioned before.
So Jonathan Lennox as an individual, I had one minor suggestion and one sort of bigger, complicated question. The minor suggestion is, if this isn't actually, if you're not numbering every frame, but just, you know, selected interesting frames, it might be good to call this something other than a frame number, because it's not numbering every frame. So maybe call it something like, you know, feedback number or something. I don't know. I'm not good at naming, but I'm still able to see when names are bad.
Yeah, sure. Frame ID is kind of an overloaded term, and since a frame might be less than a frame, then yeah, sure.
Yeah, interesting frame ID. That most suggests. And so the other question is, you said you were planning to use this in you know, an SFU style multi-point situation, which seems more complicated. So is this a case where the SFU would aggregate the feedback from everybody, or would you receive independent feedback from each receiver, or how would that work?
The SFU, as I've seen it, will have to aggregate it. So if everyone that we're fanning this out to has acknowledged this frame, then you can act it back to the sender that we have received.
So you have to wait till everybody has acknowledged it before you can send any.
Essentially, yes. And that's where you get some weird things where you might get reordering in the acknowledgement, like it might not be.
I'm worried whether that would ever actually, how often that would actually work in practice, that you would get a useful feedback in time for it to still be useful, as opposed to, like, you know, too far in the future. But I guess it depends on the size of your conference and the like.
Yeah, and so this, in the multi-way cases, things like seed frames, where you have very infrequent points where you can sort of send to a new participant, sort of replay a little bit of this sort of side stream. So not everyone has to have a keyframe every time a new user joins. That's sort of one of the use cases where this could be useful.
Okay. So next slide.
All right. Yeah, and so until the next meeting in November, my plan is to try to close out as many of these issues as possible. Actually, at least half of them will be addressed by these 2 PRs we have right now, I think. But I'm, of course, I welcome any new feedback as well, both here and on the GitHub repo. Currently, we have 3 active participants, I believe, so would appreciate more. And that was just a general question to how does this work? Would the group here like the proposal to essentially be done and it's mostly fine print left before we adopt it into the working group? Or could we adopt it and then continue the discussion on the IETF's GitHub page instead of my own personal one?
So, I mean, generally we like to have something that's like a reasonable, solid base for further development, even if we do more. So if you think this is, like reasonably solid and, ready to go into, our change control, you just have to be looking for group consensus before things, then we could look for adoption now, or if you want to do more work before you call for adoption, that's sort of up to you. But I think,
okay. Well, based on how big a change we have in review right now, I'd say let's wait until November.
Okay. We will have an interim, but if you'd rather wait till the actual.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. The interim would work as well.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Right. Thanks.
Sounds good. Okay. Next up, Young Kwan. You want to use the clicker, or do you want me to?
It's only 4 pages.
Okay.
I can just click it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Young Kwan Lim, for RTP payload format for APV. APV is Advanced Professional Video Codec. So it's a kind of, measurement codec, which means a kind of, you use for production, not for kind of final distribution to the end users. And one of the design points is that it can be used for kind of resource constrained device, such as kind of smartphone and so on. And then an additional important point we have, consider is, is it IPR risk free? What I'm saying is kind of, we have had a kind of thorough review of, potential IPRs used by the codec. And then we, found out, all the references for more than 20 years ago. So it could be really a kind of, publicly, freely, openly usable standard. So that's not the kind of RTP payload format I'm saying, and I'm just kind of referencing the information independent submission for RFC, and which has been kind of migrated so far up to the 5th version. And thanks to the kind of great review and comments by Stefan and Mo here. So it has been really improved a lot. I think, there has been a lot of kind of, errors, grammars and then fixed. And now it's very stable. And I think, ISG review also consider that, external review has been done. So now it's time for kind of his own review and then go for the kind of conflict check stages. So I think it's moving very fast, very well as planned. Next page, please. And then there are also kind of interesting development on the implementations. So I think I mentioned last time that, ASWF, the kind of, established open source project officially, and then, Android has implemented open source in version 16, currently in the market for beta version, I believe. And then also FFmpeg suddenly it was kind of very surprising. We never have any, contact with them or whatever. They just kind of look at the draft and then implement it by themselves. Was great. So FFmpeg has a decoder patch now, which seems very compatible with the draft. And also there's ongoing development of encoder as well. So APV is moving, as planned and, smoothly. And then next page, please. RTP payload format draft, there has been 00 and 01. So last time I have explained more the details of, 01 version. I haven't made any changes after that because, there has been no changes of the, codec design bitstream itself, and nor also have not received or any major, comments. And then, the draft itself very small. It's only 19 pages. So if you exclude all the kind of boilerplate, then it'll be very small because, we don't need a lot of, features, So we have only 2 packetization mode. One is just kind of, simple mode. So there's no requirement for any alignment with any internal data structure. Only thing is you always start, first byte of the frame, access unit. in the first, payload, so that you can always have a start of frame or access unit. And then the low delay mode, you have a small requirements to align with a tile. So it's a kind of, smallest, independently decodable unit, so that you can just, quickly catch up the next tiles. And then, there is a payload format header indicating what packetization mode and wherein you are in terms of, fragmented packets. So that's it. And the last page is the last one. So I think, it's kind of, stable, because, IPv itself is kind of reaching the next step, and no major technical changes are expected. And then payload format is also kind of, stable as of design. Maybe there is a kind of something needs to be updated or corrected, but design itself is quite stable now. So maybe I can ask for working group adoption, so they can be more officially considered by the group, since I didn't have many comments. So maybe kind of having it to working group draft with solicit more comments, and then fix any potential errors I might make. That's it for now.
Thank you. So does anybody, it sounds like probably this is ready for us to put on the list for call for adoption. Does anybody object to that? It seems like, yes?
Lena Chaponnier, Qualcomm. Not to object, on the contrary. I just want to say that we think this is useful. There are implementations and there is interest in the industry, and the draft is in good shape, so we support adoption.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
That's good to hear. All right, so let's add that to our list of, okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And Lena, you're up next. Do you want to use the clicker yourself? Or? Sure.
So hello everyone. So I will be presenting the status of the draft on RTCP messages for temporal spatial resolutions. So just as a refresher, what this draft is about is support the energy efficient media consumption feature, which is also known as green metadata that was specified by MPEG. And the way it works is that the sender and the receiver exchange metadata for energy efficient decoding, encoding, presentation, and selection of the media. To give a simple example, for instance, if the battery is running low at the receiver can request the sender to decrease the resolution. And this is achieved by specifying the RTCP payload format for two new feedback messages. There is the temporal spatial resolution request message, and then the temporal spatial resolution notification message. And this draft is authored by my colleague Yong He, also Christian Herglotz, and Edouard François. So to recap the timeline for the draft, it was initially submitted in 2026 in June. It was adopted by the working group in January of 2023. After that, there's been several iterations of the draft, discussion on the mailing list, comments addressed. And then there was a working group last call in October of last year. During the call for adoption, there was support from a number of companies, including Intel, Nokia, Ericsson, InterDigital, FIU, and Qualcomm. But then during the working group last call, there was only support from InterDigital, FIU, and Qualcomm. So there were also questions about whether there are papers that describe the impact and the effectiveness. Several of those papers have been published, and the latest one that's available is referenced in this slide, and it includes test results that quantify the energy savings with various codecs. There were also questions on the level of implementation and deployments. While spatial resolution and frame rate changes have been broadly deployed in video applications like video telephony and conferencing. In the NVIDIA video SDK, there is a functionality to change the resolution and the frame rate. Similarly, in the WebRTC API, there is a way to change the encoding settings, such as the bitrate, resolution, or codec preferences. And finally, the Microsoft Open specification also supports signaling for video resolution changes using a mechanism that's called video preference. So we do think that having the RTCP signaling that's specified in the draft would further enhance the interoperability among the devices by having a standardized version of these feedback messages. So regarding IPR disclosures by the authors, this has been completed. There was a disclosure by Qualcomm in 2022, one by Interdigital in 2023, and then the third author, Christian, indicated that he doesn't have any IPR to disclose. So now regarding how to progress, my understanding is that all the technical comments and the questions have been addressed on the list or during the meetings. Also questions about implementations have been addressed. So it seems like the only blocking factor is that there was not enough interest expressed during the first working group last call. So now that the draft has been updated, we would like to propose having a second working group last call to gauge the current level of interest and see if we can collect more responses to reach consensus. Thank you.
Yeah, so at working group last call, it's not so much interest as agreement that it's correct, that there aren't any more issues that need to be resolved. And that's really where I felt like I would have liked more review from people who are more expert on the RTP side rather than on the media format side. So I mean, we could certainly do a second working class call. But I'd like to see if I can get anybody has looked at the who has more experience on the RTP side to sort of commit to doing a review. Is anybody willing to volunteer here? Because I feel like that's the place where I would be more comfortable had there been more review with that expertise. So, I mean, I could certainly do one myself, but I'd be more comfortable with more people. Gori, do you want to? Yeah. Do you want to be an AD intercept here?
Gori coming as an AD, not volunteering to review because I'm hoping to finally read this, which would be really good.
Mm-hmm.
It would be really good though to see a committed reviewer somehow. Maybe the editors can find one. Maybe if they can't try on the list, but I think if we don't have some committed reviewers looking at it from an RTP perspective, this document isn't going to land well. You can do a lot of work, but if we don't get those reviewers, then I think this is a problem. So please speak up in the working group if you could do this.
Eric?
Yeah, sure. I can volunteer to help review this.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And Yongkwan, are you also?
Yeah, I can also kind of volunteer to read. I'm not a kind of really expert on that domain, but it sounds like a very interesting and yeah.
Okay, great. That's good to hear. So yeah, so we look forward to both of you. I guess send your reviews to the list as soon as you've done them, and then we can move forward from there. Great, thank you. And I think since UN has not appeared in the meantime, I think that is probably, yes, we do not have everything. So I guess, Marius, did you go over what our action items are?
Yeah, there's actually not that much that will be happening because many of the documents that we might call for adoption in the future have indicated that they want to do some further changes, except for the payload format for APB. That seems ready to be to open a call for adoption. And then we'll try to get the reviews for the recently mentioned draft in.
And we also had the two ones that we still mentioned after the.
Yeah, there's still some open call, or like we have to do some call of for adoptions from the interim meeting that we'll do as well. And there's also a reminder that there is an ongoing last call for RTP over Quick. So please remember to review that and leave your comments on the list. It's still running for 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. So yeah, please do that.
All right, so we'll probably schedule an interim sometime between, roughly halfway between now and Montreal. So I guess that would be what, like September-ish or something like that. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on the list. We'll send probably a doodle for what dates work, and we'll aim at doing it sometime, probably September, if that works for everybody. All right, anybody have anything else they would like to discuss or mention? Otherwise, I can let you all go, and you can. Well, you probably can't go to dinner because there's nothing's open yet, not in Madrid. But you could go see if any other working groups are doing anything interesting. Oh, Mattis, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that I just opened an issue in the RTP of a quick draft about the multiplexing issue that we discussed earlier. And maybe if Harald is still there, if you could have a look at that issue and let us know whether that would solve the issue that you described, that would be very nice.
Great, Harold, how did you catch that? So Mattis said that he opened an issue in the RTP over quick repo to sort of talk about the thing that you had raised. So we wanted you to take a look at that and see if that, great. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. And thank you very much, everybody. And we will see you at the interim and in Montreal.